Hey y'all, this is Lisa Zahia, and I'm here to share a little bit about how did a professional marketer turned belly dancer end up being a business coach and a life coach. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I've got my tea here. I'm having raspberry leaf tea, which is something interesting about me is I'm always working on new goals and things like that. So currently I'm working on quitting caffeine, which is not that fun. But anyway, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning, some specific formative things about me, and then talk about how I ended up here. And where's here? Here is New York City. I live in downtown Manhattan, and I am my own boss. I own a company with a team of 6, which is really crazy. That is all about empowering women, self-defined women, non-binary folks, create businesses and create income to create a business on their own terms. So how did this start? When I was 5 or 6 years old, I went to school and we were drawing pictures of what we wanted to be when we grew up. And much to the chagrin of my very feminist, amazing parents, I drew a picture and I wanted to be a bathing beauty and a tightrope walker. And I was so attracted to the idea of performance and the idea of self-decoration and the idea of self-expression. That the way I did that was dance. And so I started dance in a ballet school as a young girl, and then progressed in high school and college into lots of different kinds of dance, jazz, mostly musical theater. But it was a bit of a tortured relationship because of body type. Because I'm a curvy woman, I often was the big girl in a dance performance, and especially in the 90s, was encouraged to stand in the back, lose weight, things like that. So, it's really an interesting thing and something you get to heal later in your life when you are both in love with something and criticized for it constantly. Anyway, even before all that happened, I really had this love for performance, but something really interesting happened, which is it turned out that I was extremely good at standardized tests, which is no measure of intelligence. I strongly believe that, but is a measure of a very specific skill type. But, within that, it was, as soon as you get this extraordinary result on one of those tests, which determines very little except for your ability to take that kind of test, you're put on this academic success track. So it was, president of the student council, Princeton Model Congress, all these cool first chair clarinet things that would get me into the right college, that would get me into the right job. So that's what I did. I got into the right college, I got a scholarship, I got the right job, and the whole time I was wishing both for dance and for acceptance of me, who I was in this body and as this human. So, did all that and ended up doing a real mediocre job at the expectation of being an extraordinarily academic person. So we fast forward probably about 26 or 27, and I am miserable. Got the job, did the things, wearing the suits, selling the product, got the graduate degree, and was really unhappy, wasn't happy in my own body, and was found myself getting divorced. Parallel to that, I started a new dance form, which was belly dance, and or more appropriately called Middle Eastern dance, and fell in love with the history and the culture and the movement and how it allowed me to celebrate myself. So I did something really radical, which I would say is one of my best capabilities is the ability to jump and see where I land. And so I was about to go to law school at Georgetown was sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career, and jumped and put it all away, put the failed marriage behind me, and elected to quit everything, move to Asheville, North Carolina, and attempt to open a dance studio. Why not? And so did that and got to Asheville. And, this super interesting is when you decide to pursue your dreams, people don't think that you can have everything you want. So the thing that I heard is like, you can be a dance professional, you can open this studio, but just be ready to be poor. And I have a very rebellious bone in my body. So when that happened, I just was like, absolutely not. I will not be poor. I will not torture myself. And I will excel doing the thing I loved. So about 2 years after I moved to Asheville, I started teaching dance. I opened the studio. It was called Studio Zahia. And as an all or nothing kind of human, I moved into a space where I was teaching dance in the front. I was living behind a wall in the back. Had to keep everything clean because I was living in the dance area, and started putting in the floor by myself and doing all the things by myself. So it was homegrown. I started with my own money, and it wasn't a big fancy studio, but it was built on a lot of heart, and it just grew and grew from there. So 2 years after I moved in the studio, I got a chance at a really beautiful space, which was on the next block and really on the corner of a pretty notable street in Asheville. And that's the place where Studio Zahia became what it was able to do. And essentially over 14 years from its first inception and 12 years in its home, is it grew from one studio to two studios plus community classes all over the community. It went from one teacher, me, to 15 teachers. It grew to be a $500,000 business. And here's the deal. To me, the money that we make is only a reflection of how we're able to serve. So the thing that I'm the most proud of is it became a cornerstone of that community and a place where people went for affirmation and healing. And it was never about being the best dancer. It was always about making people feel good. Through that, I was also able to work in the community and really got passionate about empowering all women and girls. And I was working in public housing, teaching dance, and which was such an amazing experience, and learned a lot from those kids, but realized that those children, and especially the girls, needed to see all the possibilities that they could have in life and to empower them. So I got more and more passionate about making sure that women could step out of what we were told we were supposed to be by society. And even within that now, have stopped saying that I serve women, because that's limiting who people can be. Not everybody aligns with one gender. And so empowering anyone who's marginalized to see their full potential, whether I can do that through helping them with my business or stepping back, listening, and supporting the cause that I need to be supporting. So anyway, Asheville, the other thing that was happening sort of concurrently to that is I was traveling all over the world teaching belly dance workshops, which was super fun and amazing. And I think one thing that was notable about me is how quickly I built a business, which I attribute to two things. One is I attribute it to I love business. I think business is spiritual. I think it's one of the most important things we can do is choose to make an economic decision about how we impact the world. And I had the background to help me do it. So probably 10 years ago, I had people start asking me for help. I mean, primarily at the time to build their dance business. Raspberry leaf tea is good, but you know what's better? Coffee. Anyway, I had people asking me for help to build their business. I started doing that sort of as a side hustle and started coaching. At some point, I wanted to put some skill set behind that, some languaging behind that. So I got certified as a life coach and really got obsessed with learning about self-development. Since then, have done certified as a manifestation coach through Infinite Possibilities, really interested in manifestation and teaching people what it actually is, which is not just chanting that you want money to fall from the sky, but how can you actually create the life you want. I did got certified as a coach, did some advanced training, did the Brene Brown training, which at the time was really amazing, and have continually been interested in. Right now I'm doing the NLP training, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and how can I continue to develop a skill set? How can I continue to learn to help people? So here we go. At this point, I'm in my 30s. And I turned 40. The studio continued to grow. I codified the coaching business. That started to grow. I started to step away from the studio, but it was running on its own at that point. Then something happened, which was COVID. And like 2020, it was going to be my year, just like it was going to be everybody's year. And in fact, it ended up being my year in a very different way than I thought. And I think I taught my last class on March 10th of 2020, around then, and found out that I had to close the studio. I had always said I wanted to offer a digital option for the studio, but it seemed too busy, too hard, too whatever. Did it in 3 days and started to teach dance online. And, the most important thing is that through COVID, I was able to help people. I was able to help them connect. I was able to help them move. I was able to help them realize their own power by moving their bodies, which is something that we needed. I really sort of also am pretty good at forecasting. So I think I saw the writing on the wall and realized that COVID wasn't going to be 2 weeks or even a month, and decided to really invest in creating the online platform for the business. So did that and invested in that, invested in the technology, and then decided to close the business as it was. And that was really a great decision, because that studio wouldn't have been able to reopen when I have to pay $5,000 a month in rent for a year. So I sublet the space to some other folks and decided to really run that business online completely. And at the same time, really started to lean in and amp up my coaching business, which, I lost a lot of clients at the beginning of COVID. They weren't the right clients. It was people who weren't looking to coaching for a long-term solution. Typically, I actually do better with a more established business owner. And I started to really lean in and attract the right clients. And then seeing what I did with my business, taking it online, realized that my power is in helping people with digital sales and marketing. So started this online course called Make More Online, where I brought together everything I'd learned and created a place where people could do it, but they still got coaching from me. They got a community, which is end up being one of the most important parts about it. Started that in January of this year. It is currently 2021, and have had 50 people go through that course, and it's been life-changing, both for me and for them. So on a personal level, one thing that's been really interesting is that I think for many years I was successful because I was avoiding personal relationships. I married the first person I ever really fell in love with, my ex-husband, who was my boyfriend throughout all of college. And then he suddenly left. And I, from that point on, really tended to date emotionally unavailable people because probably I didn't think I was worthy, and it probably almost felt familiar and safer. So something that I've really been working on in the later years of my life recently, in my 40s, is letting go of that story and realizing that I'm valuable, and also working to work and not working to avoid. So, speaking of emotional upheaval, then what happens? It's COVID. I've decided, with my, reading this book right now about infinite mindset, that I really saw COVID as an opportunity to learn what we really wanted, to be able to thrive under pressure, and was dating someone and decided to move from Asheville to New York, and to follow that dream and to make my heart available again. And did that, moved to the Hudson Valley, spent a lovely winter there teaching dance, avoiding COVID, getting snowed on, and creating a life with my partner. And it was beautiful. And it was also, I attribute that relationship to really helping me through COVID. But I think, not everybody's ready for the same things at the same time. My partner went to overseas to get some surgery done, and while he was there, texted me and said that he needed a break from the relationship, which not was tough. And at the time, I was alone in New York City during a pandemic. And this is very clear. I remember I was laying on the floor in this rented apartment and really didn't know what to do. And it was the first time that I think, like, self-care isn't a bubble bath. Self-care is what happens in this instance, where I realized the person who could take care of me was me. And I let myself feel the pain. I felt that, but I also could see right beyond that, and could see that I am strong enough to get through this, and I'm strong enough to have the ability to do it. So picked myself up, was like, breathe, you got to get up, take care of yourself, reach out to people, got people to lean in and take care of me, friends, coaches. Talk about why you need a team of coaches. And then really was faced with a blank slate, tabula rasa, right? Like, what can I do now? And I decided to realize life is happening for me and not to me. And I leaned into, what can I do? And I remember this man that I'd been partnered with was gonna come get it. I was in an apartment with a bunch of his stuff, and he was gonna come get it. And I was like, I'm gonna take care of me before, like, this conversation or interaction can change me, challenge me. And so I booked a real estate agent and went and looked at apartments and decided that I wanted to continue adventure. I wanted to continue positivity in my life. And I signed, this was the very first apartment I looked at. I loved it, and I signed a lease that night for 2 years and spent the next 6 weeks sleeping on the couches and in beds of kind people who let me stay with them, and until I could move in here, and started an entirely new life. And if you ever asked that little girl who wanted to be a tightrope walker where she wanted to live, she would have always have said New York City. So here I am, and I'm here not because it's fun, but because I'm on a mission, and on a mission to elevate myself, to elevate my clients, and more importantly, to change the world for women. When women have money, they are safe. They can pay for medical things. They can, what I heard somebody say today, and of course, women aren't only in relationships with men, but a man is not a plan. But what do I need to take care of myself? And have been putting that at the forefront of what I'm doing. And as part of that, I am elevating this coaching, and I'm real proud to say that this is going to be a 7-figure business. We're on track for that. And through that, I can lift up my employees. And through that, I can lift up my clients. And through that, I can lift up women and girls and people who are queer and people who are marginalized through giving. And that's extremely important to me. So that's where I am, and really excited to start this new adventure, this next place. And every time I get a chance to coach, I just wish that my heart was that open all the time and I get to help people. So that's my story. We're going to be talking about what's next in my next video. And so thankful that you listened. Thank you.